Have you ever wondered why your absence causes such a stir? You're not loud. You're not disruptive. In fact, when you leave, you do so quietly. No drama, no grand exit. And yet, it feels as if the entire atmosphere changes the moment you're gone. It's as though they can't think straight anymore. Conversations falter, the energy shifts, and suddenly, your absence is the only thing anyone can focus on. Why is that? What is it about you that leaves such a gaping void in your wake? You see, there's something unique about being a chosen one. It's not about superiority or ego. It's about the impact you have, the way your presence silently demands clarity, authenticity, and truth. And when you're not there, it's as if the illusion begins to crumble. But before we go further, let me take you into a story. Because stories often reveal truths we're not ready to confront. There was a man, let's call him Daniel. Daniel wasn't like the others in the room. While they thrived on chaos, gossip, and competition, Daniel stayed quiet. He wasn't withdrawn, but he wasn't playing their game either. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words carried weight. At first, they didn't notice him much. He wasn't flashy or attention-seeking. But over time, people found themselves drawn to him. Not because he tried to stand out, but because his presence brought a sense of calm, a grounding that was hard to explain. And then one day, Daniel disappeared. No warning, no explanation. He simply stopped showing up. The room, once filled with noise and laughter, started to feel different. The conversations didn't flow the same way. The laughter felt forced. And though no one would admit it, they kept looking toward the door, expecting him to walk in. But he didn't. And as days turned into weeks, something strange happened. The absence of Daniel didn't just leave a void. It created unease. It forced the others to confront a truth they'd been avoiding. They were lost without him. You see, Daniel wasn't just another person in the room. He was the anchor, the light in their chaos, and his absence left them spiraling. Maybe you're like Daniel. Maybe you've noticed that when you step away, whether it's from a group, a workplace, or even a relationship, people don't take it well. They might not say it out loud, but their actions speak volumes. They start to ask questions, make assumptions, and sometimes even blame you for the unease they feel. But here's the secret they'll never admit. It's not really about you. Your absence drives them crazy because it forces them to face themselves. When you're around, your presence acts as a shield. Your strength, your wisdom, your calm. It covers up the cracks in their foundation. But when you're gone, the cracks are exposed, and they have no choice but to confront the chaos they've been avoiding. C.S. Lewis once said, "Courage, dear heart." And what does courage look like for a chosen one? Sometimes, it's staying in the room and being the light amidst the darkness. But other times, it's walking away not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Because here's the truth. Not everyone can handle the presence of a chosen one. Your light is disruptive. It reveals things people would rather keep hidden. It holds up a mirror to their insecurities, their doubts, their fears. And when you leave, that light doesn't disappear. It lingers. It leaves a mark, a memory that refuses to fade. And that's why they can't stop thinking about you. They're not just missing your presence. They're haunted by the reflection of themselves that your absence has forced them to see. So why does this matter? Why should you care about the way your absence affects others? Because it reveals something important about who you are. You are not just anyone. You are a chosen one. And chosen ones aren't defined by their ability to fit in. They're defined by their ability to stand apart, to disrupt, to challenge, and sometimes to leave, knowing that their absence will speak louder than their presence ever could. But there's more to this story, because your absence isn't just about them, it's also about you. What happens when you step away? What do you discover about yourself when you're no longer holding everyone else together? C.S. Lewis believed that hardships and solitude often prepare us for our greatest moments. He wrote, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. And that's the real power of your absence. It's not just about shaking up their world. It's about preparing you for something greater. But to uncover that truth, you have to be willing to let go, to walk away, to embrace the silence, even when it feels uncomfortable." We're about to dive deeper into the ripple effect of your absence, the way it challenges the people you leave behind and transforms the way they see themselves. But for now, ask yourself this: when was the last time you stepped away, not out of fear, but out of courage? And what did you discover in the silence that followed? Remember, chosen one, your story is just beginning. When you step away, you think you're just leaving quietly, don't you? But here's the thing, your absence isn't a pause. It's not a simple act of disengagement. It's a ripple, a force that moves through the lives of those you've left behind, growing stronger with every passing moment. Why does this happen? Why does your decision to remove yourself from the equation send shockwaves through their world? To answer that, let's revisit the story of Daniel. After Daniel's quiet departure, something unexpected began to unfold. At first, they didn't talk about it. They carried on as if nothing had changed. But underneath the surface, things were different. Without Daniel's steady presence, small cracks began to show. The group, once held together by his quiet strength, started to drift. Arguments that Daniel might have defused turned into full-blown conflicts. People who relied on his calm demeanor to ground them suddenly felt unmoored. One evening, as the group gathered, someone finally said what they were all thinking. "Do you think Daniel's coming back?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered. It wasn't just his physical absence they were grappling with. It was the loss of something intangible, the balance he brought, the unspoken wisdom he carried, the way his presence made them feel seen, even in their flaws. Without him, they were left to face themselves. And that was something they weren't ready for. This is the ripple effect of your absence. It's not just about you leaving a room or ending a conversation. It's about what your absence reveals. The truths people have buried, the insecurities they've ignored, the chaos they've tried to mask with noise. You see, chosen ones like you don't just occupy space. You bring a sense of clarity wherever you go. And clarity is a double-edged sword. While it can guide people toward truth, it can also expose things they'd rather not see. When you're around, you unknowingly act as their anchor. But when you leave, they're forced to navigate without you. And that's when the real tension begins. Let me share with you why this tension exists. First, your absence disrupts their routine. They've grown accustomed to you being there, even if they never acknowledged it. You've become a silent part of their stability, a lighthouse guiding their ship. Second, it forces them to confront their flaws. When you're in the picture, they can project their doubts, fears, and insecurities onto you. But when you're gone, there's no one to shield them from their own reflection. And finally, Your absence introduces uncertainty. People crave predictability. Even those who claim to love chaos secretly long for stability. And when you leave, you disrupt that fragile balance, leaving them unsure of what to expect. Think of it like a game of chess. When you're on the board, you play a critical role. You might not be the queen, the most visible or powerful piece, but you're the knight. The one who moves in unexpected ways, who changes the dynamic of the game just by being there. But what happens when the knight is removed from the board? The game doesn't stop, but it shifts. Strategies falter. Opponents struggle to adapt. That's what your absence does. It shifts the dynamics, leaving them scrambling to figure out how to move forward without you. And yet, there's another layer to this ripple effect. Because while your absence creates tension for others, it also creates space for you. C.S. Lewis, in his timeless wisdom, wrote, "We are what we believe we are." And when you step away, you're not just leaving behind the noise and chaos. You're stepping into a space where you can rediscover who you are. Think about it. How often do we lose ourselves trying to meet the expectations of others? How often do we dim our light to make others comfortable? Stepping away isn't just an act of courage. It's an act of self-preservation. It's a declaration that you won't let the world dictate your worth. When Daniel left, he didn't just disappear. He found himself again. Away from the noise, he began to see his purpose more clearly. He realized that his role wasn't to fix others or hold their world together. His role was to grow, to evolve, to become the best version of himself. And that's what happens when you step away. Your absence creates a ripple effect not just in their lives, but in your own. It forces you to confront your own fears and doubts. It challenges you to step into your calling with boldness and clarity. Because here's the truth. Chosen ones aren't meant to stay in one place. They're meant to grow, to expand, to impact the world in ways that require them to move forward, even if it means leaving others behind. So, what does this mean for you? It means that your absence isn't just a loss for others. It's a gain for you. It's a chance to rediscover your strength, to sharpen your vision, to prepare for the extraordinary destiny that lies ahead. C.S. Lewis once said, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." And he was right. Your absence is a doorway to something greater, if you have the courage to walk through it. In the final part, we'll explore what happens when you embrace this journey, when you stop looking back and start moving forward with unwavering faith. But for now, remember this: your absence isn't a void. It's a ripple, a reflection, and a revelation. And as it spreads, it changes everything it touches, including you. In the silence of your absence, something remarkable happens. At first, the world you left behind feels chaotic, as if it's unraveling. But over time, the dust settles, and the true purpose of your departure begins to emerge. Not just for them, but for you. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." This is the moment where the ending begins to shift, where your absence transforms from a disruption into a revelation. For those you leave behind, your absence becomes a mirror, a reflection of everything they've been avoiding. Take, for example, the story of Daniel. After he walked away, the group he left behind initially fell into disarray. But as time went on, something unexpected began to happen. Some started to realize that they had leaned on Daniel too much. They had relied on his calm to mask their chaos, on his wisdom to guide their decisions. In his absence, they were forced to confront their own shortcomings. For one member of the group, this meant finally taking responsibility for their own actions. For another, it meant recognizing the toxic patterns they had been perpetuating. And for a few, it meant coming to terms with the fact that they had been too afraid to step into their own roles as leaders. Your absence doesn't just shake people, it shapes them. It pushes them to grow in ways they never would have if you had stayed. And while they might resist at first, deep down, they know the truth. Your leaving wasn't an act of abandonment. It was an act of love, a catalyst for their transformation. But the most profound revelation isn't about them. It's about you. When you step away, you're not just giving others space to grow. You're giving yourself permission to rediscover who you are, without the weight of their expectations, without the noise of their chaos, without the pressure to hold everything together. C.S. Lewis believed that solitude is not a place of emptiness but a place of preparation. He wrote, "We meet no ordinary people in our lives, and that includes yourself. In the stillness of your absence, you meet parts of yourself you may have forgotten, the dreamer, the visionary, the believer. It's here, in this quiet space, that you begin to see your purpose more clearly. You start to ask questions you didn't have time to ask before. What am I here to do? What gifts have I been neglecting? What extraordinary destiny is waiting for me?" And as you seek these answers, something extraordinary happens. You realize that stepping away wasn't just an escape, it was a calling. A call to prepare, to refine, to grow into the person you were always meant to be. C.S. Lewis understood the tension between leaving and moving forward. He said, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." But embracing what's ahead requires courage. It requires letting go of the fear that you're abandoning others or missing out on something. It requires faith that the path you're walking, though unfamiliar, is leading you exactly where you need to be. Think of the butterfly. Before it takes flight, it must leave the cocoon. The process of transformation is uncomfortable, even painful. But the moment it spreads its wings, the struggle becomes worth it. Your journey is no different. The act of stepping away is your cocoon. It's a time of transformation, a season of preparation for the extraordinary flight ahead. When you finally return, not to the same place but to the world as a whole, you'll notice something powerful. Your presence is different. You're no longer just a light in the chaos. You're a beacon, a guide. You've stepped into your role as a chosen one, not just someone who influences others, but someone who inspires transformation. Those who once relied on you may see you in a new light. They'll recognize the strength it took to leave, the wisdom you've gained in your absence, and the courage you now carry. And for some, your journey will spark their own. They'll be inspired to step away, to grow, to find their purpose just as you did. So, chosen one, the question isn't whether your absence matters, it does. The question is, what will you do with this time? Will you let it pass quietly, or will you use it as a catalyst for your transformation? Will you embrace the solitude as a gift, or will you resist it out of fear? C.S. Lewis believed in the power of choice. He wrote, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Your absence isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where you step fully into your calling, where you let go of the need to fix others and focus on the extraordinary destiny that lies ahead. Your absence drives them crazy not because of what it takes from them, but because of what it reveals about you. You are not ordinary. You are chosen. And chosen ones don't stay in the shadows. They rise. They grow. They become. So take this time. Step away. Reflect. Transform. And when you're ready, return. Not as the person you were, but as the person you were always meant to be. Because, as C.S. Lewis said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. And your destiny? It's waiting. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Now, we want to hear from you. What part of this journey speaks most to your soul? Have you ever stepped away to find clarity? And what did you discover about yourself? Comment below, we'd love to know your thoughts. And before you go, ask yourself this. What if the life you're waiting for isn't ahead of you but already within you, waiting to be awakened?